Hi and welcome back to the vlog and our very first cruise. If you're a Virgin cruiser like us, then join us as we discover the ship together. From the highs to the lows. But more importantly, all the great aspects to the Virtuosa. From the bars, the restaurants, the various activities and other hints and tips we've discovered over this 11-night cruise. So this first vlog is going to be a compilation of our journey throughout the cruise. As a first time cruiser, our minds were just blown at all the information that was out there, how the different cruise liners operate with the varying dining rules, the speciality restaurant packages, drinks packages and gratuities and Wi-Fi. We had like so many questions, so I'm hoping this first vlog can give some reassurances to the first time deer in the headlight cruisers like ourselves, or the people that have yet to cruise on MSC and are looking to do their first cruise with them. Our second vlog, on the other hand, will be a little bit more personable. 3, 2, 1, smile. So if you want to see a more narrative day-to-day journey throughout the cruise, then stay tuned for vlog number 2. But for this first vlog, it's going to be separated into sections, which I'll try and timestamp. I think it's crucial that we start with the most important part of any cruise. No, it's not the cabin or embarking process. It's obviously the drinks and the drinks packages on offer. Starting from the lowest deck, we have the Infinity Bar on deck 5. Not only does this bar provide the general drinks menu that many of the other bars offer, it's a great place for a coffee or a hot chocolate. The majority of the bars offer the exact same menu with the exception of the speciality bars such as l'Atelier and the Champagne Bar, which I'll come on to later. The prices shown of the drinks is what we would have paid if we didn't have a drinks package and opted for pay as you go. A newbie tip here is to definitely purchase a drinks package at the time of your cruise. I'll cover these later and show you how the prices really ramp up on the run up to the cruise and then how crazy they get when you're finally on board. We opted for the premium drinks package, which allowed us to drinks to the value of £14. I believe this changes to €14 or $14 depending on the base of the cruise. But back to the Infinity, great selection of drinks, quite a busy bar during all times of the day, but a very chilled vibe which has some great session singers in the evening, and just a general good place for people watching and a great view of the sparkly atrium. So moving up to deck 6 and possibly one of, if not the busiest bar on the ship, is the Virtuosa bar. Again, this bar has the same menu as the Infinity, but is a lot more lively in general, has a quiz in the early evenings and live bands and definitely more of a party vibe. I forgot to say, to get the menu, you scan the QR code that are on the tables, which will then load the menu you've seen on the previous screen. Typically, servers come round to take your order, but during busy periods, sometimes this can take a while, so it may be easier to order your drinks at the bar. But what I will say, in some instances, we were told to take a seat and wait as they had no one available to take bar orders. But for the Virtuosa bar, great atmosphere and great to mingle with other people as most tables are close together. But this place does get very busy, and on most nights it's really difficult to get a seat. Mainly because it's right outside the main theatre, so before and after a show it's when it's most crowded. Still on deck 6, and as we moved aft, get me with my nautical terms, we get to the l'Atelier bar, which has one of my favourite drinks of the cruise. As you walk here, you get to see the amazing Canopy, which has some fantastic shows, which I'll talk about later. Again, this bar is quite chilled, plenty of tables and comfy chairs, and also has the occasional pianist playing. As a newbie, we initially thought that this bar was extra and not part of the drinks package because it looked like it was part of the Indocine speciality restaurant, but the bar is separate, and despite having its own menu with speciality cocktails, this is actually included in the drinks packages. Again, scan the QR code for the menu and you see all the drinks from the generic menu, but with some extra special cocktails on there, and one of which I absolutely loved. Let me introduce you to one of my favourite drinks on the ship, the Penny Lee. Despite the bar having plenty of seats, I do think the service here was lacking in comparison to the other lounges. There were typically only 2 servers occupying the large seating area, whilst also doing orders for the Indocine restaurant. On one occasion we waited over 20 minutes to order a drink, which actually brings me on to my second newbie tip. We quickly realised that the majority of servers, not all I have to say, generally don't make eye contact when doing their rounds. They don't approach the tables in any particular sequence, they're just very busy running about everywhere tidying tables. So we learned that by saying excuse me and getting their attention really helped. If they were busy, they said they'd be back to take our order, and 99% of the time they did. I know this sounds like common sense, but if you're quite reserved or introverted, it could be an age before you order a drink. We watched one couple sit there in the L'Italia bar, I'd say for over 30 minutes, not actively trying to get the server's attention, getting fed up and then walking out. So I do think in busier times it's really important to have some confidence and don't be afraid to give a gentle wave to get the server's attention. Moving further down the ship and still on deck 6, we have the Starship Club, complete with a very expensive robot, but in my opinion, one of the best bars for service. Tucked away in the corner behind the main man himself is the Starship, which in my experience was another one of the quieter bars on the ship. I have a feeling though that people assume that this bar is extra outside of the drink packages because the robot charges a small fortune for a drink, but I can confirm that this bar is also part of the drinks packages, offering the generic menu with the occasional savoury snack. If you do want to pay extra for Rob the Robot, then expect to pay anything from £10 to £15 for a drink, but at the time of posting this, the Starship Club drinks were included in our drinks package. Moving up to deck 7, we have Masters of the Sea. This busy bar has a look and feel of a proper old school pub, a session singer on an evening and always a great atmosphere. There's some outside seating overlooking the Galleria and Canopy, which is a great place for people watching. The pub also has its own menu along with the other drinks you'd expect. As well as the large selection of beers and lagers, there's these interesting beer tails. This one was called the Spiced Apple Pie, and it was different. The pub also has its own food menu, which we didn't partake in, but seemed reasonably priced. This place is a must for the craft beer drinkers, and the servers in here were very good. But again, this is a very busy bar inside and out, so getting a seat here during peak times can be quite difficult. Once you've had a beer tail or two in the Masters of the Sea, a short stumble across the Galleria, you come to the TV studio bar. This bar, much like the Virtuosa lounge on deck 5, definitely has more of a party vibe and more suited to those that like a sing-song and a bit of a dance. Opening later than most of the bars, usually around 6 or 7 I think, again serves the generic menu for all the various drink packages either from your table or at the bar. As mentioned, this turns into a karaoke around 10 o'clock until about, I think, maybe midnight, and let me say, the talents of singers can be from both extremes. So if you like a tune or two, don't be put off by the pros. Bit of advice though, is to get your name on the list early because the spots do fill up quite quick. Service in here can be hit and miss, but this was the only lounge where they consistently allowed you to order drinks at the bar. Yet again, another busy little bar at night which can be difficult to find free seats, but it wasn't uncommon to see people stand around the sides and watch people as they destroyed a Whitney Houston classic. Another newbie tip is when ordering your drinks, it's important to understand what your limits are per drinks package, and most importantly, to specify which brand you want. If you have the premium drinks package and ask for a vodka and coke or a gin and tonic, the likelihood is you may receive one of the lower end brands, such as Smirnoff or Gordon's. Instead, ask for a Belvedere and Coke or an Aviation and Tonic to ensure you're making the most of your premium drinks package. It only happened to us once in the casino bar where I was given, I think it was an Absolute instead of a Grey Goose. I mean, it wasn't the end of the world and it all tastes the same after 2 or 3, doesn't it? But if your package allows it, then it's worthwhile making sure you're making the most of what you allowed within your limits. I've mentioned it briefly, but let's go to the back of the ship to one of our favourite spots, minus the cigarette smoke that is, The casino bar. There's not much to see here other than the circular bar with the various sports screens and some very hard working bartenders. I'm not 100% certain, but I believe this was a generic bar menu, but most of the time we just ordered a lager or spirit just to help keep things moving. This bar got extremely busy on the night, very difficult to find a seat at the actual bar, but for us who came in here to gamble, that wasn't much of an issue because they did have waiters and waitresses that came around to take your drinks order while you were playing the machines. Again, the drinks in the casino are included in your respective drinks packages, and remember to specify what brand of spirit you want. We loved the staff here, some great banter with the bartenders, but one of our biggest issues with the casino bar and the casino itself is the thick smoke from all the smokers that congregate. So just bear this in mind if you're a non-smoker. We discussed this at length in our wrap-up. As we move back to the centre of the ship and still on deck 7, we have the champagne bar. This bar is a very chilled open area with lots of overpriced grape juice. The bar opens at around 5 PM until midnight, and you've guessed it, gets very busy during mid to late evenings. As you may have figured, we are not really champagne connoisseurs, but this strawberry mimosa was very good indeed. The champagne bar does have its own standalone menu, but the majority are priced outside of the drinks package limits. There's a handful of wines, champagne cocktails and sparkling cocktails that are within drink package limits as shown on the menu. I mean, none of these names mean anything to me. I have no idea if these labels are reasonably priced, but there does seem to be quite a selection. Personally, I wasn't a big fan of this bar. The atmosphere was just lacking something. The service was okay, but not being a champagne or wine drinker, I think there's better bars across the ship. But this might be your vibe if you prefer a more relaxed environment, so why not treat yourself to a Armand de Brignac Brut Gold at 360 quid a pop. Moving on from deck 7, we then skip 7 floors of cabins to deck 15, and this is our first look at some of the pool bars. Next to the indoor pool called the Tropical is the aptly named Tropical Bar. Now, I can't be 100% certain again, but I believe this was the bar where they included smoothies and other healthy fruit-based drinks. I'll put the menu on the screen, but apologies in advance if this is fake news. So there's smoothies, fruit crushers, coolers, something called a lassi, none of which we tried, and then you just move on to your main pool menu with the usual cocktails, mocktails, beers and spirits, and this Mai Tai certainly hit the spot, even though it was a little bit on the sweet side. But yeah, we love this indoor area, which seemed to be pretty quiet most of the time. Chilling by the windows and just watching the world go by. Never had an issue finding a seat at a table or lounger. The servers were quite rare around these areas, but the queue at the bar was never too bad. Moving down the ship slightly, we come across Atmosphere Bar North and South. These are the main bars that service the outside pool area, and again, there are servers that walk around, but we found it easier just walking to either north or south and getting served at the bar. Yes, I do drink liquid other than alcohol, and these coffees are very nice indeed. On an evening, and if there were no shows or parties outside, these bars are usually pretty quiet and quite easy to get a drink. Again, serving the pool menu as seen previously. As we move up to deck 16, we come to a very quiet sports bar, a small seating area around the sportsplex and arcade. This bar wasn't really a place we spent much time in. It did, however, serve as a good alternative when the service was slow at the back of the ship around the horizon pool. But again, despite its size, it served all the drinks you'd expect to see on the generic menu. This deck is also where you will encounter the yacht club, and as a person of poverty, this was out of bounds to us, but I dare say there's a lovely bar or two in there for the Kate Winslets and Kathy Bates types, but unfortunately not able to show it on this vlog. As we move up to deck 18 and still outside, we have the Horizon Bar. This bar is mainly used to serve those at the back of the ship relaxing around the horizon pool, but by night it turns into a mini nightclub complete with bouncers watching out for any trouble. This bar is open till 3 AM and serves the generic menu as seen previously. Very busy during the day, but not too bad late at night. Still on deck 18, we move to the middle of the ship to the Sky Lounge. This bar is adult only and is a very chilled atmosphere with absolutely fantastic views. I'd say get here in the early evening to secure a good seat because yet again, this gets very busy mid to late evening. Service here was always pretty good to us, plenty of servers walking about, but this is where we had to give a gentle wave as the staff avoided eye contact. As it felt a little bit fancier up here, we tended to go for the cocktails, and this signature martini was way too strong, even for a plonky like me. So I think I've covered all the bars that are on the ship, and I think you can agree there's plenty of places there to suit your vibe. And personally, I don't think the queues were that bad. But let's discuss the drinks packages that I've touched on briefly and look at how crazy the price differences are prior to boarding and then after embarking. So full transparency, we were originally quoted just over £1,000 for the Fantastica package without the drinks package. So for the premium drinks package, it was over £440 to be added each, which I thought, well, hang on, 440 divided by 12 nights works out at like 36 quid. That works out at just over 3 premium cocktails a day to break even. So to me, that's a no-brainer. I can probably put away 3 cocktails by like 11 AM. Now, I'm glad I did, because if you wanted to then add the premium package onto your booking via the MSC app or the website, as you can see, this screenshot was taken 2 weeks before the cruise. It was over £700 each to add on, so over an extra £360 per person by not getting the package at the time of the booking. Now, if you don't book the premium, that gives you up to £14 per drink. There are other cheaper packages such as the Easy package, which is a specific menu, or the Easy Plus package, which is drinks up to the value of £9, $9, depending on the home port. But we thought, well, you know, this is our first time, it might be our last time, let's just go for it, let's just go for premium. I don't know if you can get the Easy or the Easy Plus at the time of booking. We weren't given that option, but we just thought that the value was there for the premium, so we just went for the premium. But it doesn't stop there. If you then decide to add the drinks package on when you're on the actual ship, look at the state of these prices per day, per person. 87 quid just for one day. So from paying £1,500 at the time of booking to over 2,100 when on board, it absolutely makes sense to bull on the drinks package at the time of booking. Otherwise, you could be paying up to £600 extra. Obviously, you can pay as you go, but you've seen the prices featured earlier throughout the vlog. So yeah, it depends just how much you like a tipple. But I do think that it's really important to consider the options at the time of booking, otherwise you could be losing out big time. So secondly, I think it's important to know where to grab some food to soak up all that alcohol. So let's move on to the food. So I'll start with the main dining room. You will be assigned one of the 5 main dining areas when you embark. This will be your allocated dining room for the entire cruise, and most of which are on deck 6. These include the Symphony, the Opera, or the Minuetto. Il Campo is on deck 7, but this wasn't used on our cruise. But our dining room was on deck 5, called the Blue Danube. You can find your dining room on your cruise card or from looking on your TV in the cabin. So all the dining areas serve the exact same menu, and we maybe ate here 4 or 5 times on our 11-night cruise. You can scan the QR code for the menu or request a physical copy. There's always a vegetarian or vegan option and an always available section which includes the chicken biryani, which is riddled with cardamom pods. Anyway, of the times we ate here, we thought the food was just okay. The food sometimes came out lukewarm. Service was always pretty good though, but the portion sizes made us question our meal sizes back at home. Again, your respective drinks packages are valid in the main dining room, but back to the food, I'm not sure. It just wasn't the quality I expected. Sometimes lacked flavour, and most of the time it lacked heat. But yeah, pretty average on the whole. We were allocated 9:30, which kind of clashed when things were starting to liven up in the Galleria, but apparently if they can accommodate you, they are able to change your dining times. Going back to the portion sizes, this brings me onto my first newbie boo-boo. So we found out literally on the last day that you can order more than one dish off the menu, whether that be another starter or another main. This wasn't clear from the off, and the waiters never mentioned anything. It was only having spoke to the couple next to us that explained they always get a third main to share. So yeah, if you feel the portions are a little on the small size, just ask your waiter for additional dishes. Another newbie boo-boo that's linked to the main dining room is that we didn't know you could use the dining room for breakfast and lunch. We assumed this was just a buffet setup, but nope. You can have a much calmer dining experience in the morning and at lunch in the main dining room. This won't be your allocated dining room as on your cruise card. For us, the dining room for breakfast and lunch was in the Minuetto, and it was just a case of queuing up and then being taken to a table. As with the premium drinks package, I do highly recommend purchasing the specialty dining packages before your cruise. We opted for the 2 dining experience and a carousel show. This included the Butcher's Cut Steakhouse and the Indochine French Vietnamese restaurant. This came to £70 per person before the cruise and would have been £80 per person when on the cruise, but without the carousel show. But we visited the Indochine on our second night, so enjoy the following clips of the Indochine 4-course dining experience. As you can tell, the presentation and quality are leaps ahead of the main dining room. Overall, the meal was fantastic. The flavours of the soup and the beef were excellent. So with the dining experience, you pick from the 4 courses as seen on the menu, and any extras are chargeable. But the food we got as part of the experience was more than enough, and you don't come out of there hungry. We then visited the all-you-can-eat Hola Mexican restaurant. We didn't get this as part of the package and just paid the extra $17.99 each. But as you will see from the following clips, excellent value for money with plenty of food. Again, another fantastic meal where you won't leave hungry. All the dishes were delicious and the service was brilliant. It is advertised as an all-you-can-eat, but you are guided by the very charismatic waiters who ensures you get to try all the various dishes. At the end he does ask if you want more, but by that point you are ready to pop. Definitely worth the 18 quid, and again another reason to pre-buy your drinks packages, otherwise this Corona would have set you back £7. If you do purchase the dining packages, it will always include the Indochine and butcher's cut by default. Then as you go up, it will add on the sushi bar as the 3rd option and the Hola Mexican as the 4th. These can't be swapped out for a preferred restaurant. So moving on to Butcher's Cut, this was definitely the most in-demand specialty restaurant where availability is concerned. So a tip here is to try and book your space as soon as possible. To do this, go to the front desk inside the L'Italia bar. Again, you can use your drinks package allowances in here also. They had some different speciality and exclusive cocktails to try, but I thought I'd get my wine on with my steak. As you can see on the screen, the dining experience has a set menu priced at £47 if you hadn't pre-booked. I opted for the shrimp and then the New York steak. So overall it was a great experience. The servers were attentive, always filling up your wine, and just an overall pleasant evening. I enjoyed all of my courses, but Steve thought his steak was a little bit too fatty. I would definitely recommend coming to Butcher's Cut and certainly pre-book the speciality package before the cruise to get 2 restaurants for £70. Then you won't have to pay £47 for Butcher's Cut and £49 for the Indochine dining experiences. Unfortunately, we didn't experience the sushi or the teppanyaki restaurants, but from what I did see, the chefs were very interactive with the guests and it looked like a pretty fun dining experience. Stop, calm down, I'm joking. The buffet isn't that bad. And yes, I know it's not just Brits on board, and other nationalities will be partial to a bit of broccoli at 8 AM. So, the buffet. Where to start? Let's begin with breakfast. The Marketplace buffet is on deck 15 at the back of the ship. Yes, the buffet is busy, and yes, the staff can't keep up with the volume of people, but in terms of breakfast, they offer the usual fare of bacon, eggs, fruits and yogurts, cheeses and hams. There is an omelette station that I didn't bother with, and always this big tray of broccoli. For drinks, there is a bar within the buffet, or you can help yourself to tea, coffee and juice from the various beverage stations. There are service buttons on tables to order from servers, but naturally this can take a while to arrive. Here's a selection of breakfast I had over the trip. To be fair, it wasn't all that bad. I just wish they'd left the bacon in the grill for a minute extra or so. So moving on to lunch. We probably came to lunch maybe once or twice during the trip, and again the food quality was pretty average with a good selection of hot and cold items. One of our favourites were the curry dishes and the jack potato and salad. So, if you missed the main lunch between 12 and 3, there's actually an afternoon tea that isn't advertised on the app or TV, and we just stumbled across by pure chance. There's a selection of finger sandwiches, cakes, cookies, and by far the best thing was the freshly made scones or scones that was still warm. We then had a mini argument as to whether the cream or jam goes on first, but either way, they were very delicious. As more people learnt about this secret afternoon tea, the queues did get pretty long as only one station was ever open. So I would definitely try and get your scone fix at the start of the cruise before the other 6,000 people find out about it. Another newbie tip is to walk to the back of the buffet where it's much quieter. The majority of people tend to stay in the first half of the buffet, but if you walk right to the back where you can sit outside, it's much less crowded, complete with open food stations during breakfast and dinner. Another instance where something wasn't advertised was late night pizza. If you missed dinner and hit the drinks package a little bit too much, you have until 2 AM to soak up that booze with pizza and a leftover green jelly thing from dinner. We didn't get to experience dinner in the buffet, but overall it wasn't that bad in reality. If you hit the meal times right at the start or towards the very end, you find the queues to be much less intense and a bit more bearable. If you're having a pool day and can't be bothered to get dressed for the dining room or buffet, then the Atmosphere South Bar do fresh pizzas, chips, burgers, chicken nuggets throughout the day. So now you've soaked all the alcohol up with the copious amounts of food and the 5,000 calories, you might want to know where to go to burn it all off. So this next section is the activities.
Scandalous, so scandalous, yeah, scandalous. Let's not looks again. Straight talk, sex appeal. One touch gives me chills, and we ain't even close. Yeah, roughneck all around, ain't been all over town. Show me how you get down, 'cause we ain't even close.
So when I say activities, I don't mean things like this. I'm more about the arcade, bowling, casino, pools and shows. But there are plenty of exercise classes, hoop and beanbag throwing throughout the day, which can be found on your daily planner, found on the TV or the MSC app.
Just get it up, the way you move, so scandalous. It's all about the two of us. A one night stand just ain't enough.
But let's start with the arcade on deck 16.
You gotta spin around like crazy.
There's plenty of your usual amusements, from air hockey to grabbers, dance mats, etc., all of which can be played by swiping your cruise card on the readers. Now, they're not cheap, and this is where I would definitely recommend pre-purchasing a games pass prior to the cruise. For £70 you will get £140 worth of credit. Otherwise, as like everything else, you will be paying more for less once you're on board. The Formula 1 racer, the interactive cinema and the VR arena were all good fun and definitely worth doing. Although I personally don't believe that they're worth their individual prices, but with the Fun Pass it makes them better value for money. But this unfortunately brings me on to another newbie boo-boo. So if you do get the Fun Pass, you can obviously use the credit across different people, but don't do what we did and think the Fun Pass was linked. So when Steve scanned his card on the machines, we were charged and it didn't come off the Fun Pass as that was on my account. Also, make sure you book your bowling early in the cruise because places will fill up fast. So the clip that you've just seen of us bowling, well, that was actually at 11 PM on the very last night. So let's go down to deck 7 and to the casino. As we're like a bit of a flutter, we spend quite a bit of time in here, mainly because a certain person kept winning. As previously mentioned, they have a very busy bar where they serve the generic drinks menu, but the main casino floor has all the slots you see in Vegas, so all the aristocrat games, IGT, poker and even scam pots. So the service at the slots can be hit and miss. The Carousel Theatre is just past the casino, so people meet in here before and after a show, so it can get quite crowded. I'm not really a table player and wasn't allowed to film the tables, but from memory, the blackjack minimums were £10 a hand, and I believe the roulette was £2 minimum for straight numbers and £5 for outside bets. But you can always play the terminals where I believe the minimum bet was 50p. There is also bingo, but crikey, the prices are steep for a single game, so we never got our dabbers out on this occasion. Despite us spending a lot of time in here, we did have a bit of a gripe with all the smokers. Now, as a frequent Vegas visitor, I'm used to people smoking inside casinos, but our issue was that people would come in, take the seats, light up and not even be playing the slot machines. There is designated smoking areas around the ship, but on more than one occasion they would come and sit next to you, light up and just blow smoke in your face. On one occasion they took the seats to the slots, sat in a circle, started smoking and playing cards. This one woman sat next to us, lit up a cigarette, and then when she finished, she put her mask back on. We couldn't believe it. Again, we totally expect smoke in a casino, but it would be like a cafe owner having people come into their cafe, take all the tables, leech the Wi-Fi and not even buy a single cup of coffee. Anyway, rant over. Just if you're a gambler, be prepared for seats not to be at slots, because Margaret and her mate Brenda are smoking their way through a 20 pack. So whilst we're on deck 7, we move to the very back to the carousel lounge where the shows, and I'll probably get these pronunciations wrong, Acmea and Ajadre take place. These shows have an additional cost outside of the main theatre, but unlike most add-ons on the ship, these are definitely worth the extra cost. We got one of these shows as part of our speciality restaurant package and then paid £9 for the one prior to getting on board. If you wait until you're on the ship, these will be £15 each, but I still think that's worth it. Apologies for bringing up Vegas again, but if you've ever been to a Cirque du Soleil show in Vegas, these are pretty much of that standard, but in my opinion so much better because of the intimate setting and close-up views. In my opinion, Ajadre was better than Acmea, only because the theme of the show was much clearer, based on a game of chess with competing kings and queens. As for Acmea, I still haven't got a clue what was going on there, but either way, the performers were fantastic and the overall production is just top class. With both shows, you will get a complimentary cocktail, which was okay. To book these shows, there's a dedicated desk on deck 5 in the afternoon, or you can go to the desk inside L'Italia bar on deck 6. So whilst we're on the subject of shows, let's go down to deck 5 to the main theatre. Here you will find all the free shows that take place at numerous times of the evening. There tends to be an early performance around 7 and then another around 9 or 10. To book a show, you can use the app as shown and just follow the instructions to the show you want to see. Pick the time and then confirm. This will then show in your app itinerary and you will be notified around an hour before the show is about to start. Or you can use the TV in your room to also book, or the various touchscreens dotted around the ship. There's also a separate line for walk-ins on the off chance there's spare spaces. But there's a great mix of musicians, singers and variety shows. At one point we thought Judi Dench had died, but in fact it was a special piece dedicated to her. But what I will say is, once you've seen one of the carousel shows, the performance in the main theatre sometimes falls a bit flat, as seen by this guy's expression. So moving on to the pools, we strangely didn't spend much time around the pools for some reason, but our favourite was the inside tropical pool on deck 15. This indoor pool area had a number of jacuzzis and hot tubs, and despite being on a Canaries cruise, was nice and warm from the chilly outside areas. We preferred the tropical pool just because it tended to be a bit quieter and less manic from the outside atmosphere pool. For all pools though, you can change your towels at the desk, which is just outside. As for the outside pool, as you can imagine, always a popular choice. and always seem to be busy with only the odd sun lounger available. This main pool area is salt water, and no, it's not a wave machine. At the back of the ship on deck 16 is the horizon pool, and no, this also isn't a wave machine. It is a tad quieter here through the day, but the pool is a bit on the small side. On deck 19 is the aqua park, but we didn't get a chance to try out the slides as it was closed on a couple of occasions due to rocky seas. So let's go down to deck 6 and 7 to the Galleria, and this is where all the action takes place. From the various shows and parades, the fantastic canopy displays, and then late at night themed parties and silent discos. So there will always be a white night and a formal gala night. Lots of people get dressed up for both of these, but there's no requirement to do so. We also had a space party night, a school disco, and a flower power themed night. You will only find out about these 24 hours prior by looking at your cruise planner, but definitely pack something white, a funky 60s-70s shirt, and your old school tie to fit in with the party vibe. On our 11-night cruise, there were 2 silent discos. You need to register for your headset around 10 PM for the main party starting at 10:30. But the best feature of the Galleria is the canopy shows that occur 2 or 3 times a night, showing different themed animations, and again, these shows will be listed on your cruise planner. So whilst we're in the Galleria, I'll quickly mention the various shops and designer stores available. So there's your usual jewellery, watches and clothing brands. There's also tobacco and cigarettes for sale, but I have no idea if these prices are any good, but I bet the people sitting in the casino would know. There's perfume and aftershaves, but also a little shop that sells those cruising essentials. You also have the Jean-Philippe chocolate shop and cafe with a vast selection of chocolate and other confectionery. They also have a machine where you can customise your own chocolate bar, but this will set you back £9. But lots of other sweets and treats that are obviously added extras, even the coffee shop that isn't part of any drinks package. There's also a gelato shop offering various flavours, but again we didn't try any of these. But I think that's pretty much everything covered on the Galleria. Again, great visuals from the canopy and always a lively party around 10 PM at night. So I know I've done this a little back to front, but I'll now move on to the embarking and the cabin. So embarkation for us was interesting. There was a 45-minute queue which we assumed was normal, but was later informed this was due to people turning up at the wrong times. But nevertheless, once inside the terminal, it was pretty plain sailing. You drop your whole bags outside, go through security and check in at the desk. You then receive your cruise cards once on board, which are in your cabin door. We were pretty impressed with the size of our room. There was a decent sized TV, plenty of wardrobe and drawer space, and a wonderful unrestricted view from our balcony. The bathroom had all the essentials with shelves and cupboards for storage. The shower pressure was pretty good and had a handy little washing line to dry your wet clothes. But one of the best parts of the cabin has got to be, we always take our travel kettle wherever we go with a supply of caffeine because addiction, but useful to know that any cruises when the home port is in the UK, they supply kettles in all rooms. There's also a mini bar, but you decide if you would pay these prices. But a tip here is to ask your cabin steward to remove the items so you can use the fridge for drinks from the bars. There's also a hairdryer and a sewing kit for when those buttons start popping off. So as mentioned previously, we have the Fantastica package which allowed us to pick an unrestricted balcony view, but another benefit here is the free continental breakfast delivered to the cabin each morning. You will be given an ordering form each day. Just fill it in with the quantities of each item and make sure you hang it outside of your cabin before 2 AM the previous night. This was perfect for when you were feeling a bit rough in the morning and didn't want to brave the buffet. Obviously at this point we didn't know the main dining room served breakfast, but yeah, pick your time and enjoy. Other little tips for the cabin is to buy some of these mini magnetic hooks. They're good for hanging clothes on and drying them out in the bathroom, or in our case for having your own pendulum to see how choppy it is. The sockets are USA or European, but they do have USB ports under the TV and at the side of the bed. We have this adapter for when we go to America, but unfortunately unable to use it on this occasion. Another thing we thought was really strange was there is no irons on board. Apparently in other cruise liners there's like ironing rooms, but here they're strictly forbidden. You can't even bring a travel iron on. They will get confiscated. But as a complete noob to cruising, you just don't ever comprehend that you wouldn't be able to bring an iron on board, especially when people are smoking on cabins and smoking in casinos and flicking their ash everywhere. So if it's a fire hazard, then I don't understand how that works. But yeah, that's just one of our newbie realizations. So moving on from Iron Gate, as featured previously in the vlog, the app and TV are really useful to access your account, daily planners and personal itineraries. We were expecting paper copies of a daily planner, but the app when on board worked great, so this wasn't required. The account section is instantaneous, so it's worth checking this regularly to ensure you haven't been charged for any drinks or just to monitor your overall spend, but also to identify that fun passes for the amusements aren't actually linked. We did have some other minor issues with our cabin. On the first night we came back to our balcony partition door, swaying and banging into next door. We managed to use 2 chairs to sort it out temporarily, but you could still hear the banging on the latch. but we thought after reporting it 3 times on 3 separate days, they would have done something else. Anyway, after 4 days of using an old sock, they eventually got it sorted. But apart from that little niggle, the cabin was brilliant, always clean with fresh towels provided daily, which brings me on to a couple of newbie eyebrow razors. So as a newbie, we were really surprised just how attentive the cabin stewards are. When I visit Vegas, mention Vegas again, or any other big city for that matter, you're lucky if they change the towels daily. Our guy was tending to our room twice a day, and with a vacuum and some very elite cloth folding skills. At one point I told him he didn't need to go in the early evening, but he was like, "Mr. Kevin, I want your room to be perfect," and you know, I felt bad for refusing his services. But yeah, sometimes it did feel a little bit too much, especially when you're hungover and you just want to die in peace. Sometimes he would just totally ignore the do not disturb sign. So yeah, be prepared for very attentive cabin stewards, who of course work their backsides off anyway. Even though gratuities are included in the price, we tipped our steward at the start of the cruise and then also towards the end, but this is obviously down to the individual. Another eyebrow razor was when getting off at ports, you don't actually need your passport. Again, as a newbie, this was really surprising, but very good in that you're not carrying your passport all over with the risk of losing it. But the biggest eyebrow razor is just like the cruise culture. Like, is that a thing? Like, when we go on holiday, we rarely make any holiday friends, but we couldn't get over how approachable and chatty everyone was on this cruise. Whether it was in the dining room, sat next to them in the pool, or even in the hot tub, everyone was just really friendly, which did enhance the overall experience. So my question is every cruise friendly like this? Anyway, just thought I'd share some of our first time cruiser insights. Here is a quick summary of all our newbie tips, boo-boos and eyebrow razors. But obviously the main important tip from me, obviously I'm filming this on day 10 once I've discovered 90% of the cruise. As you can see, my face is falling off. I am absolutely exhausted. I've probably got alcohol poisoning, but the biggest tip is to get a drinks package prior to getting on board. Get it with the booking. Ask your travel agent how much it is. Again, I think I was worked out at £36 per day, something like that. It's good, but it's also very, very dangerous. We wrote off 2 full days, drinking all the Belvedere vodka and all the Grey Goose vodka you could ever want. But it is good value for money, and that's obviously one of our biggest tips. Anyway, I'll stop rambling on there. Thank you for watching this first vlog. Again, we came into this very open-minded. We had no preconceived ideas. We've got nothing to compare it to. We've spoken to a lot of seasoned cruisers, lots of veterans that have done 40, 50 plus cruises and absolutely slated the Virtuosa. But for us as first timers, we've enjoyed ourselves. We've drank lots of vodka and lots of spiced rum, and yeah, I'd definitely give it a good 8 out of 10 for a first time cruise. Thank you for watching. If you do want to see a more day-to-day narrative, day in the life of first time cruisers, then why not join us for vlog number 2. Thanks guys, and thanks for putting up with this greasy death face. See you later, bye.